It's Numbers Don't Lie, powered by Sofascore here on CBS Sports Golazo. Gonzalo García had himself a game without Kylian Mbappé, kind of like he did at the Club World Cup. Is this sustainable? Can Real Madrid keep this up? JayDee Dyer, Nico Cantor, running through this question about Real Madrid that has seemingly felt very dependent on the Mbappé goals.
Naturally, because when you have arguably one of the best strikers in world football, you want an over-reliance on them, for them to produce and to do their best. But Nico, this is an incredible opportunity for them to showcase that they're bigger than just Kylian Mbappé, no matter what the numbers say. I mean, look at the goal contributions in 2025. There's a reason why they say that this man is arguably the best striker in world football. The goals speak for themselves. The assists are through the roof. And of course, he's the focal point of one of the most historic teams in Europe.
You always say that the best ability is availability, right?
You know my numbers.
And Kylian Mbappé is always there for Real Madrid. He's rarely injured. But when he is out, sometimes there's guys like Gonzalo García that step up. He hadn't stepped up all season. It's his first start since September in La Liga. He hadn't scored a single goal and he got a hat trick, perfect hat trick. Right foot, left foot, header, right foot, left foot. Unbelievable. I mean, this guy absolutely smashed it. There were questions about him getting time at the Club World Cup. Everyone was like, well, he's clearly not going to play despite this form. But you know what? Now that Kylian Mbappé is out, just like at the Club World Cup again, he steps up to the plate and performs.
Because you want this. You want a hungry young striker who understands the system, more importantly, understands the makeup of the club, and really gets any opportunity he gets, whether it's coming off the bench, whether it's starting, whether it's lesser games, an opportunity to rest Kylian Mbappé, he's going to showcase what he can do. Because he doesn't want to be fifth on this feature. No, he wants to be in the top 5, he wants to be in the top 2, because he wants to be considered up there in terms of one of the best strikers within this squad, and someone that is reliable, because you just said it. What's the best ability? Availability.
Right.
And if he's available and he's scoring, he can do it. The problem is when you have someone who's at the top that's so good and so heavily reliant, it's almost impossible to look away from him.
The distance between Kylian Mbappé and the rest, I mean, Gonzalo García, for God's sake, scored his first game that he's scoring in La Liga, and he's already in the top 5 of Real Madrid scores. I look at this and I say, how many teams like this in the world are there? And immediately I thought of Haaland. But Manchester City, the rest of the group, has kind of stepped up and showed that they are more than just Erling Haaland. It's similar, but the thing is that if they do perform, if they're always there, sure, it's okay to be reliant on them. But it's almost at an exaggerated level. You compare Mbappé first with Vini, his teammate, right? Vini has dropped off significantly, not only this season, but the year before when Mbappé arrived. But when you got superstars like Kane and Haaland pulling and carrying that weight, you can rely if it's consistent.
Nico, it doesn't matter what sport it is. If I have a superstar, I'm going to attribute the best to put that person in positions to be successful. And that's all they're doing when you look at these world-class strikers, and especially I'm looking at Kylian Mbappé, Harry Kane, and Erling Haaland. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever when I see the over-reliance, especially in their goal involvements and the percentage that they have for their teams. But I want people to realize these are unique talents. These are once-in-a-generational strikers that you have. So if you don't feed them, there's going to be bigger question marks as to why you're trying to play for the wider team. But what it does do is create an opportunity now, because the absentee of any one of these strikers, and each one of them have had periods where they've had to step away from their team, whether that's been rest or injuries, or in this choosing, I'm telling you now, there's an opportunity for Vini, who's the second on this feature, to step in and say, remind the world that I'm still good. I'm a little bit better than good. I'm great. And I can produce if the keys are given to me.
But against Betis, he didn't show up, Vini, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The thing is that there's not been that many games that Real Madrid has seen without Kylian Mbappé. In fact, they've done all right, but those games arguably haven't been the biggest. A lot of these numbers are at the Club World Cup where Mbappé was out injured at the very beginning. They've only lost one game. I mean, you look at it, their points per game, pretty much the same. They're scoring a little bit more when Kylian Mbappé is on the pitch. But like you say, JD, it's a time for other players to step up.
Of course.
Like Vini Jr, for example. I think this is a point where a lot is going to be in question. I'll move it on over to the other wall to kind of explain this conundrum about Vini and how he needs to step up. Because with everything going on beyond the pitch, Vini's being put into question without a shadow of a doubt. Can he carry a lot of the weight that Mbappé does as well? So here are the numbers from last season and then the season before that. The season before that is the one that they win Champions League, the one on the left, right? you look at forget goals per game. Look at shot per game, big chances created per game, and XG per game. This Real Madrid is better in those senses. But what really matters are the goals per game. That Real Madrid team that won Champions League were overperforming in a lot of categories and coming up clutch. Like, you could say overperforming, sure. I call it coming up clutch because you gotta deliver. And they delivered, that Real Madrid team.
Because of the focus on Kylian Mbappé and his excellence that has been since he's worn the all-white classical jersey, of course, you can now sort of, I would say, spread your attention elsewhere. And unfortunately, some of the other players that are still world-class talents, i.e. your Jude Bellinghams, your Arda Gulas, and so many other players in the final third, including Vini, have now got an opportunity to really showcase that they can be as good as anybody in world football. Now, Bellingham, Vinicius Jr, and of course, we're going to talk about Rodrygo. They are three players that I think have an opportunity to step up here. And this is now where we're going to get an opportunity to show what Xabi Alonso can do as a manager. Because you can have a world-class forward, and you can always play to those strengths. But now you have an opportunity to really showcase your system, why you can be excellent, how you can produce someone like a Gonzalo García, and they can come out and show from the moment that they're good enough to wear this Real Madrid shirt, how heavy it can be. So this is an opportunity for everybody. Take Mbappé out of the conversation for a second. We see in the conversations that have been around Xabi Alonso, his tenure, and whether or not he has a grip of this squad. Well, showcase to the world that you do have a grip of this squad and you can ignite some of the other key players, especially when one is absent.
Yeah, I mean, these drop-offs, I would have thought there were going to be more. Crazy to think that Rodrygo and their Sofascore rating, this is the Sofascore rating, right, hasn't really dropped off that much. A little bit from Jude Bellingham. The thing is that this was so high. He was so good in this season. But let's focus in on Vini. What has changed between here and here? Well, obviously, he's expected to perform alongside Kylian Mbappé, right? And he actually does. Vini has been very good with Mbappé. He struck a partnership, arguably. It's the person that Kylian Mbappé is most compatible with. Or I'll say it the other way around.
Okay.
Mbappé is the person that is most compatible with Vini.
Okay.
Right now on this Real Madrid. Perhaps it was Jude before, but Mbappé has come in and he needs to strike a partnership with somebody. The thing is that when Mbappé doesn't play, Vini also plays a little bit worse. You see the percentage of the team's big chances, the percentage of the team shot, the goal conversion, which is the most glaring one. It is kind of worrying that you go from 12% with the help of an Mbappé to just 3.8%.
Let's remix that word worrying though, and let's not call it worrying anymore, and let's start using the word, which I think is a common theme for today, which is he needs to be accountable. He needs to turn around and recognize that there's a massive gap in terms of the ability of Kylian Mbappé and the spaces that he holds. We already know what he does, whether he's dynamic in behind, the ability now to drop short, to link play. He's an all-round complete centre forward. But it doesn't take away in terms of what he is. He is still one of the best inside forwards coming off to the left or the right or wherever he wants to impact a game of football, and really does need to showcase in this period where Kylian Mbappé is out with a knee injury, why he's world class, why he was in those conversations, why he felt like he was snubbed for the Ballon d'Or. This is all the same player we're talking about. We can't make any excuses. The numbers don't attribute that he understands his role, but he now needs to recognize where he is in world football.
Yeah, listen, this was the infamous tweet, right? Eu farei 10 vezes más if I need it. I'll do 10 times more if needed. They're not prepared. And ever since this tweet, when he was snubbed for the Ballon d'Or, he has regressed. Without a doubt, this same player that was nominated for the Ballon d'Or, they brought another superstar. He hasn't been able to get the most out of himself along with another player. Sure, he still kind of needs him because, as we showed before, he plays better when he's on the pitch. But it almost feels like there's so much potential for this to be an unstoppable duo, and it hasn't gotten to that level, especially when his contract situation is up in dispute, where he still kind of needs to prove, I can be that guy. So instead of doing 10%, unfortunately, he's done 0.56 times more. Like, this needs to be a much better Vini than we're seeing?
The pressure's on, not only on Vini Jr, but of course on Xabi Alonso and on the rest of the squad to really showcase that they, of course, understand the responsibility of wearing Real Madrid. But more importantly, they can win these big games without them because they do have a big game around the corner. There's got to be a revenge now. Anytime I see Atleti on the fixture schedule, there has to be a revenge, especially you're talking about in a cup situation with the intensity, the knockout, the pressure that comes with that. Real Madrid versus Atleti is one that we always circle wherever it is in the calendar. But now, with the absence of Kylian Mbappé, what do you feel about this fixture?
I still think it's the same. Listen, and Atleti, I think, has more to prove than Real Madrid. I'm trying to think through my statement as I'm saying it. But Atlético Madrid have fallen so far off of the title race that it just feels like more than ever there's starting to be questions and questions about Cholo Simeone and Real Madrid. For as much as everything that we just talked about, they're not that far off the lead in La Liga. They're very competitive in Champions League, whereas there's been questionable performances from Atlético Madrid, and this is our Z-score, which is basically an average of all of these different qualities, and Real Madrid clearly shows that they're better than Atlético Madrid. Ironically, the last time that these two teams faced each other,
you know who had a better team?
Destroyed Real Madrid.
You remember the 5-2. You remember how Atleti utilized Real Madrid's strengths and made them their weaknesses. Now, I've never seen Real Madrid look as fragile as they did within that game, especially this season. But there has to be an element of revenge. There has to be an element of mental fortitude. Not only is this your local rivals, not only are they naturally competitors within the league, but now I'm entering a cup competition with you.
Yeah.
There has to be an intensity level raised by Real Madrid within this fixture to understand the magnitude of it.
And it's funny, the Super Cup that it comes now in the middle of the season, it's going to be used to write narratives. And we've been saying it for the last 3 weeks. We've been talking about this Super Cup, right? There's going to be 3 teams that are going to be eliminated. 3 teams that are going to be out of contention for a cup and 1 team that's going to win. So it's either going to help to embolden your story, if it's Real Madrid, Atlético Madrid, Athletic Club, or Barcelona. And then there's going to be 3 teams that are going to fall by the wayside. And again, there's going to be questions. If Real Madrid doesn't win this, more pressure on Xabi Alonso. If Atlético Madrid doesn't win this, forget about it. You know how many questions are going to be asked about Cholo Simeone and if they're throwing the season away and whatnot? Barcelona, the same thing for them. If they lose to Real Madrid, it's going to help and give Real Madrid some hope to try to revert everything that's going on this season. So a Super Cup that maybe at the beginning of the season we wouldn't have attributed so much importance to, now that it's in the middle of the season.
You did.
It has a different flavor.
You knew. You circled this about 2 months ago, and this is where my brother in arms is really smart. You said this was going to be a deciding fixture in terms of the direction for Xabi Alonso and how long he was going to have that tenure. But you now get involved in the conversation because now you've entered the fray. So you tell us, how big of a game is this for Real Madrid? Can Vini step up in the absence, of course, in Kylian Mbappé? And more importantly, can Real Madrid make sure the 2026 ends a little bit better than 2025?
Hey, thanks for watching this video from Numbers Don't Lie. Be sure to catch our show every Monday at 5 p.m. on YouTube. And for news and insights from leagues all around the world, including Serie A, EFL, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.